Guillermo del Toro's new Frankenstein adaptation is awesome. A lot of people love it. It has great reviews and it's doing great on Netflix. And it just might be the closest adaptation to the beloved novel. But just how close is it? And what mistakes did they make? What changes did they make? And why? I just find it outright baffling how all these filmmakers just can't faithfully make an adaptation. I don't think to this day there's been an exact faithful adaptation of this book. And I mean, I get it, like it is really hard to make a faithful adaptation and sometimes it just doesn't work for the screen, like for the movies. But I mean, like, dude, if you read this, even if like, what's the harm in doing a slow burn, dramatic, heartfelt movie based off this? Like, there's already been so many monster action, scary horror, adaptations. Like, dude, like what I want to see is like a Greta Gerwig adaptation, slow burn, like story of this. Like, I think that'd be remarkable. And there's a reason why it's a classic. This book came out in 1818. 200 years ago. People are still reading this and talking about it and making movie adaptations. There's a reason why it's good. But no, you know what they say? All right, welcome in Del Toro and team. All right, Netflix team, who we're gonna make this adaptation. All right, let's sit down and talk about this. We got hundreds of millions of dollars here. We got a great team. All right, let's see how we can make this happen. All right, ideas, notes, anyone? All right, yes, I totally agree. I love this book so much. It's a great book. Mary Shelley is a genius. Here's my first idea. Hear me out. What if we change stuff? This is the first trailer. This is the first trailer that people saw. I've stopped watching trailers. Yeah, that part was really sick. This is a great trailer. Dude, that was sick. All right, dude, props to them. I don't think they came out with a teaser. I think this is like the first trailer. But that was great as a teaser and a first trailer. Holy crap. Okay. So I just watched this movie a few days ago, so I wanted to make this video while it's still fresh on my mind. I'm a huge lover of the novel. I have the classic edition right here, and I recently listened to the audiobook. So I've read it once about 1 or 2 years ago. That was my first time reading it, and I was blown away. I didn't read it in school, like in high school, and a lot of people read like a lot of classics in their English class. But I missed out. What was up with my freaking English class? Like my education. We didn't read a lot of classics, so I've like been doing a lot of catching up on classics over the years, and I was just blown away by this book. So this newest Frankenstein adaptation, and I think after looking at it, this is the first Frankenstein adaptation since 2004. So if that's the case, that's kind of crazy. It's been 20 years since we've got a like legit Frankenstein adaptation. I think there was I, Frankenstein, but that one was a totally different concept, so I don't think that necessarily counts. So this new one came out, and I was nervous about watching it. Went to a football game, and after the game I went to go hang out with my friends because I had nothing to do after, and it was like a Saturday night, and they were all watching Frankenstein. And I got there and they had like 20 minutes left, and so I kind of sat on the couch where I didn't have a good view, and so I just kind of like listened to it and tried not to pay attention to it because I knew I was going to watch it eventually. I just saw so many mixed things. I saw people who loved it, and then I saw people who were disappointed. And I mean, whenever the movie ended, my friends like turned it off and then started chatting, and then I was like, so what'd y'all think? And they were like, it was good. And then like one friend was like, oh, it was like really beautiful. So I was like, well, crap, that doesn't like seem great. Like I hate whenever like you ask someone like about a movie and they're like, it was good. Like that's all they got to say. It's like, oh wow, cool. You should really be added to the. That guy just got a Facebook message. No, I don't want to trade. Sorry about that. I'll talk about the movie here in a second and what I think about it, but I'll just explain why I was nervous. It was because I really love the book. I really love the book, and it's just so frustrating because after I read the book for the first time, I watched the original, I think the 1930s version, and it was just so mind-blowingly different from the book. It's like they had absolutely no faith that audiences were going to want to see a faithful adaptation, and they just completely made it into a monster movie. And surprisingly enough, I watched the sequel, The Bride of Frankenstein, and it's way more like the book than the first one. And so I definitely would recommend you watch, if you want to check out the older ones, I definitely recommend watching Bride of Frankenstein if you love the book. But also if you saw the original and didn't watch the sequel, I recommend going back and watching Bride of Frankenstein. I think it's better. And it's kind of funny too, because like in the movie Frankenstein's monster, you know, he's like a bumbling idiot. Like he's like, please, master, make me a companion, someone who looks like me, someone who's as ugly and as like demonic and monstrous as me, so I can love them and I won't be alone. And Victor Frankenstein's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then he makes an absolute baddie. He makes an absolute baddie. And then Frankenstein monsters over there like, I can't compete with that. Okay, so let me get to the movie. I think it is beautifully done. I honestly liked it a lot better than I expected. I didn't realize that it was long. It was like 2.5 hours, and I thought it could have been longer. I had a friend say that it dragged, that it was the runtime was kind of bloated, but also I don't think they've read the book. The opening with the Arctic and the ship, and then how they split up the movie into 2 parts, like part 1, you know, Victor's story, and then part 2, Frankenstein's, you know, the creature side of the tale. Like I loved that. I thought that was great. I thought it was visually so pleasing. Beautiful cinematography, and the sets and the costume and the practical and like even camera movements and whatnot, like I felt very planned, and it just kept like the story intriguing and moving, even with like normal conversations. And I thought the performances were great. I love I almost said Edgar, because I think that's his name in Star Wars, but I know it. His name's oh my god, his name's Poe in Star Wars. I was thinking Edgar Allan Poe. I've been reading Edgar Allan Poe short stories. Oscar Isaac. I love him. Honestly, I don't think this is one of his best performances though. I think he's really great in other movies. I thought Jacob Elordi was great. I understood about like 70% of the words he said, you know, watching it without subtitles. There were some really good moments that they did in the movie that weren't in the book. And then there were some that they stayed true to in the book that they accomplished really well. In the book, there isn't a lot of detail into the experiment, like the creation of like the monster, like the creature. Like it doesn't go into detail about how Victor does it. Like once he gets all of like the pieces of the body and the equipment and everything, there's not a whole lot of detail on that. And so that is like something all the film adaptations have had to accomplish themselves. I thought it was brilliantly done in this one, like really, really cool how they got to that tower building and set up all the equipment, and Oscar Isaac is just running around frantically. Seeing all of that, I thought that was accomplished really, really in a cool and sick way. And, you know, and it circles back later with certain things that happen in the film. So overall, I'm really, really happy with this movie. I think as a movie itself, it is awesome. A couple of critiques that I had looking at the movie itself, not thinking about the book, the critiques I had is that even without reading the book, I think Victor Frankenstein comes across as unlikable. I think they spend way too much time on his ambitious side. They make him appear a little greedy and too prideful. And you don't really see him regret or feel guilty for what he's done until almost the end of the movie. But it's also how they've changed things, which I'm going to talk about later, the differences. But for example, like he's going after his own brother's fiance, which isn't cool. Like it shows that he doesn't have a lot of respect for his brother. And then it shows that there's like some kind of competition between him and his brother whenever, like early in the film, like Christoph Waltz character talks about how his brother William is making a name for himself. And then Victor kind of has this weird reaction of like, that makes 2 of us, you know, or like we're both trying to we both have that name. So who's going to do better, you know? And so like him like impersonating a priest to be able to hear her confession is really sketch, you know, like breaking down that privacy. The creature comes to life and he's really abusive and not loving, and he calls the creature it. He never calls it a him. So it just kind of makes it where we are like, yeah, well, what do you expect, Victor? Like you're getting what you deserve. So that didn't really come across very well. It was hard to really like. It was way too far leaning the creature. So it was really hard to kind of root or feel bad for Victor until the very, very end, which I'm glad that they were able to come back and redeem that quality later. That, and I wish we spent more time with the creature, like seeing him learn about the world and learn about like how to speak, like how to use words. And then also like his interactions with people, because I think he comes across the hunters. That's the first human interaction he has outside the castle, besides Elizabeth and William and Victor. And immediately, they shoot at him, and then he just stays hidden in the barn next to the cottage. It's kind of like, just from like two hunters, he realizes immediately that nobody is going to treat him normally. So I think they should have spent more time with that. And then also the part where he comes back to the blind man who's been attacked by the wolves, and he kills all the wolves. Like, just one nitpicky thing, just because I'm a filmmaker and I watch a lot of movies, is that whenever the family comes back, like the hunters, and they see obviously that I think their dad, the blind man, I think it's DeLacy, he's all cut up and and dying, and the creature is there with him, and so they're like, "What'd you do to him? What'd you do to him?" They start shooting him and attacking him, and he's like, he runs out of there because it looks bad, the way it's set up. It looks like the creature killed him, but also it very clearly showed, if I can pull up clips, I'll show them now, but it very clearly shows the creature, like, very gruesomely, honestly, ripping off, like, the wolf's hides and, like, breaking its neck, and he, like, picks it up and he chunks it inside the cottage. And so there's, like, obviously dead wolves inside the cottage, but the hunters don't see that, and it was, like, right by the door, so they would have seen dead wolves and then the creature and DeLacy, So I think they could have put two and two together. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, in this scene, what's so important in the book is that they attack him and totally deny him and reject him based off of his looks, purely based off of him looking so horrifying and, monstrous. Like, they don't even give him a chance. And so that is another example that proves to him that he's not welcome in this world, that he doesn't fit in. Whereas in the movie, when they discover him, it appears as if he has attacked DeLacy, that he is the reason why he's dying, not the wolves. So that's why they attack him. And so in the movie, it comes across like he knows that he's not welcome there, because it comes across as if he killed DeLacy, that it's his fault. So that doesn't really prove to him that he's just not generally accepted whatsoever. However, with that being said, I really love this scene in the movie. I think it's really beautiful, and I like how DeLacy calls him his friend and is glad that he came back for him. I think that is really, really beautifully done, and just another great thing that the movie did that's different from the book, but kind of in a good way, and that sets the movie apart from the book. That was just like some nitpicky stuff, but like regardless of that, I mean, I think it's a very solid, great movie and a very touching ending. I was really happy with the ending. And for all the continuity nerds out there, if you notice that there is steam rising from my coffee cup, well, you're correct. In between takes, while I was changing batteries, I went and got me a cup of coffee. So this is not sponsored by coffee or any coffee brand. However, now that we're on the topic, let's go to today's sponsor. Do you have the day off from work today? Are you wearing sweatpants like I am, looking ridiculous? Got nothing to do today, looking for a movie to watch? Tired of all these Hollywood expensive films repeating the same story over and over? Have you thought about watching an indie film? Have you thought about watching a low-budget film made by young filmmakers with big dreams and aspirations? Well, look no further. We just got a new film that came out called Dangerous Ones. Crime, thriller, modern western. You can watch it on all streaming platforms, some for free that play ads. But the biggest way you can support us is by watching it on Amazon, by renting it or buying it. And then make sure you just leave us a rating and a review, both on Amazon and on Letterboxd. This will help us so much. It'll help push the film out there. Yeah, and you can check out other films and short films up on our YouTube channel. Go support your local filmmakers. Back to the video. Obviously, everyone knows and has heard of Frankenstein. SNL just recently did this really funny skit where they dress everybody up as Frankenstein in this movie theater to see people's reaction. And this one guy has never heard of Frankenstein, so it's really funny. He acts like he wasn't scared or worried at all, and he's like, Frankenstein, what's that? So I thought that was a really funny bit. So everyone knows the iconic monster, green monster with the, bolt sticking out of his head, and, the mama, hey, no. I was expecting like, okay, this has to be a classic for a reason, so surely it's not some cheesy, corny monster story. Like, there's got to be more to it. Kind of similar to Dracula. So I was really surprised when I started reading this book, and it's so deeply like personal and human, and especially the creature, is not at all as is shown in the movies. He's very intellectual and super innocent. I think that's the biggest word. So in this book, I think the most shocking thing was that he is actually very articulate and smart. And the first instance of that, because obviously they treat him like he is a child, like an infant whenever he's created, so he can't speak at first. And he's experiencing everything anew. He experiences fire for the first time, and he's confused how it can be so comforting and warm, but he sticks his hand in it and it like burns him and hurts him, and he's like, how can something so pleasant also hurt? Be so harmful, you know? So it's really, really cool to see him experiencing everything. In the book, he learns how to talk by watching The Cottage for a long time, and then also picking up books that they leave behind. I bookmarked on here the first encounter since creation of Victor Frankenstein and the creature. So, you know, like in the original, like the classic and all the cartoons and everything, you expect him to be this like monster, this bumbling idiot monster. And so it says Victor Frankenstein standing there and he sees a massive man coming towards him in superhuman speed. And then so I'm reading this book and I'm like, okay, yeah, the monster's about to like walk up like and like, you know, choke him and like try to kill him, and Victor's gonna have to run away. But on the contrary, so at first Victor reacts as the creature is approaching him and says, "Devil, do you dare approach me? And do not you fear the fierce vengeance on my arm wreaked on your miserable head? Begone, vile insect, or rather stay, that I may trample you to dust. And oh, that I could, with the extinction of your miserable existence, restore those victims whom you have so diabolically murdered." And then the creature responds, "I expected this reception. All men hate the wretched. How then must I be hated, who am miserable beyond all living things? Yet you, my creator, detest and spurn me, thy creature to whom thou art bound by ties only dissoluble by the annihilation of one of us. You propose to kill me. How dare you sport thus with life? Do your duty towards me, and I will do mine towards you and the rest of mankind. You will comply with my conditions, I will leave them and you at peace. But if you refuse, I will glut the maw of death until it be satiated with the blood of your remaining friends." Dang, okay, Frankenstein's monster. Okay, creature. Go off. So luckily that is done super well in Del Toro's movie. And also, I'd like to point out first that the description of Frankenstein, I'm kind of paraphrasing here from memory, but he has yellow skin, he has long black hair, he has black lips and pearly white teeth. I'm pretty sure that's like the main description, and obviously he's like 8 feet tall and like massive. So Del Toro like killed it with that description. However, I still don't think he's scary enough in the film, because in the book, literally people like immediately run and are horrified at the creature when they see him. Like, he has to be that repulsive. And in the movie, bro is like, he's like 7 foot tall. I mean, Jacob Elordi is what, like 6'5", and he's low-key kind of pretty. I'm confident in my own sexuality to be able to say when a guy's pretty. The best part, like the best example, is whenever he does approach DeLacy, the blind old man, and is pleading his case and talking about him, and he's like, "I need your help." And the blind man is like, "I can tell from your voice that you are sincere and that you mean no harm and that you are good." You know, and it's so sad, and I think this is what is missing from the movie, is that whenever the rest of the DeLacy's family comes home and they see the creature, just seeing the creature, they freak out. And like, I think even Felix, DeLacy's son, attacks the creature immediately. And I think it just emphasizes too that he can't go anywhere. Like, he has to travel by night, so that way nobody has a chance of seeing him, because he can't even like get a word out to somebody or talk to somebody before they just instantly go crazy. Like, that's how horrifying he looks. So I just want to point out that I watched a great video by Cinemassacre. He looked at all the film adaptations of Frankenstein. So like I said earlier about Frankenstein, not really counting because they like really change it a lot. So he did that with, I think, about 12 film adaptations, and I haven't seen all of them, but it's a great video, so I recommend checking it out. It's by Cinemassacre. So with that being said, here are the biggest things that I found that disappointed me with Del Toro's adaptation that they changed. And this is why I got beef with it. This is why I got beef with you, Del Toro. I'm gonna have to look up a video of like, see if he like explains himself or, you know, his reasoning. I think the biggest one is obvious is his father, Victor's father. They change it to where he is like abusive and mean to him, and he likes his little brother William more than him. He hell-bent on teaching Victor and like, if you want to be great someday, if you're gonna carry on my Frankenstein name, then you got to do great things, you got to learn this. And then he just like dies out of nowhere. I mean, Victor's mother dies, and then his dad dies, and then he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go off and continue pursuing my studies. And like, that is like the motivation for his ambition and his studies, just because he wants to be better than his father. So then that's why Victor is abusive to the creature when he first makes him. It's because he has daddy issues and a bad experience growing up, and it's like, oh, look how cool it is. He's like, it came full circle. He's like, see, he's mean to the creature because his dad was mean to him. Wow, cool. Yeah, okay, yeah, wait, that's way better than Mary Shelley. Good job. Like, it just blows my mind. In the book, his father is such a great family man. His father is writing to him, concerned about him. Later, Victor gets falsely suspected of killing someone. I'll touch on that later. And his father goes there to break him out of jail and to bring him home. And then later, his father dies from a broken heart. And then, can you imagine, like, it's because of Victor's consequences, like the consequences of his actions. From making the creature, it just trickles down all these events. And then Elizabeth, who he was really close to in the book, which, you know, in the 1818 version is Victor's cousin, but then Mary Shelley changed it in like the 20s or 30s, changing Elizabeth to an orphan that the Frankenstein family brought in to take care of and bring up. And so Victor's dad was really close with her, and then I think it's after whenever she dies that he just can't take it anymore, and he dies of a broken heart. And it's like, dude, can you imagine hearing about that? Like, hey, your father died the next night that this really sad tragedy happened, like a close one of his died. He couldn't take it. His heart couldn't take it, so he died. And then you think, wow, that only happened because of me, because I created that creature. It's like, that is a freaking dagger to the heart. My God. And no, they changed that in the movie. No, how about his dad is like really tough on him and like wants him to do good in biology, and then that's his ambition, is to like be better than his dad. Oh my God. Another big thing is Victor doesn't run away as soon as he makes the creature. So in the book, he sees what he created, the monster, and he was so blinded by his ambition and just to get this project done. Like, I know I can do this idea of like bringing life to something that was dead. And he was so focused on that and like losing sleep and not eating, and that's all he focused on. But then I think it was just the accomplishment. He just wanted to accomplish that and see that he could do it and prove to himself. And then whenever he sees his creation, so past the exhilarating feeling of like he did what he was set out to do, but seeing the results scared him shitless. And he realized he made a mistake at that instant, and he ran away. He ran away and left the creature by himself. So the creature had to like wake up in this darkness, no one around him, abandoned already at birth, and having to figure out where to go and what to do. And I think that is super important. And then I think you instantly feel for Victor because he kind of justifies himself in immediately realizing the wrong that he's done and that he's made a mistake, and by running away. But whereas in the movie, he sticks around, he's like proud of himself, and he tries to teach the creature, but he like instantly chains him up downstairs, and he's like, you can only say one word. Wow, all this time I've been trying to teach you, you can only say one word, you idiot. And so it's like, you don't feel for Victor in the movie. Like, you don't, like, I hate how they made that change. I think that what is obvious to all of you who have read the book is they change Elizabeth and William. So in the book, Elizabeth, like I said, in the 1818 version, Elizabeth is his cousin, and they're kind of promised for marriage, to get married early on, like even whenever they're children, and they're basically best friends, and they really love and care for each other, and they know they're going to get married in the future, and they do care for each other and love each other. But Victor goes off to pursue his ambition, and I think he's gone for like 6 years, and she like writes to him, and she's wanting to hear back from him. But in the movie, in Del Toro's movie, they this is the biggest change. They change where Elizabeth is no relation to Victor and is William's fiance. So Victor's little brother's fiance. And then they add like a new character. I thought at first that they were making Christoph Waltz the character of Henry, Victor's best friend in the book, but I don't know exactly. I think it's just a new character in total, but that is Elizabeth's uncle. So his niece is going to marry Victor's little brother, and that's how they meet. Victor doesn't really know Elizabeth at this, like, there's not a huge tie. It's just like this chick that's going to marry my little brother, like, that I tried to hook up with, and she said no. And so now I'm mad. Okay, I'm back to my studies, I guess. And then William, in the book, the creature comes across William and realizes that it's Victor's brother, and kills William out of revenge to Victor. He kills him on purpose, and then Victor hears of it, of William's death, through a letter from his father, and how they're all heartbroken. And so it's like these little things that the creature's doing to send the message to Victor of like, hey, come back, like, find me and fix this and make this right, instead of just going after Victor and killing him immediately. Like, he wants him to suffer. Later, it's like, it's worse, where he wants him to surfer. He wants Cowabunga, dude. Like, Victor's trying to ignore all this, and he's trying to move on with his life. Like, their wedding is planned, and the creature tells him, I will be with you on your wedding night. Literally gives him a warning. And I think in the book, Victor thinks that he's gonna kill him on his wedding night. Doesn't even think about Elizabeth. That's my one gripe with the book. So he's like shocked when Elizabeth dies instead of him. But yeah, in the book, the creature kills Elizabeth on their wedding night and jumps out the window. And like Victor like shoots his gun after him. But in the movie, Victor is there at his brother and Elizabeth's wedding, and the creature confronts him, and then Elizabeth like sees the creature and is talking to him, and then he like beats up Victor, and then long story short, Victor accidentally shoots Elizabeth and kills her, and then the creature slams William aside, like out of defense, and William hits his head on the wall and dies, and then Victor's like, oh crap, and then runs away. It's like, bro, it's so much more meaningful and hard-hitting in the book when it's like, hey, your little brother was found strangled to death. We found the body of your fiance on the night of your wedding. She was also strangled to death. They were both strangled to death. Interesting. He knows it's the creature. And then not even to add that they don't even include Justine, who's like a family friend who grew up in the household of Frankenstein. She's falsely accused of killing William, Victor's little brother, because the creature planted his locket or his necklace or whatever in Justine's pocket while she's sleeping. And she literally gets hung. And like, that was like one of Elizabeth's like closest friends, like people in her life. So it's like all these things that are hurting Victor's loved ones and is making him feel insanely guilty for the things that he's done, but they don't do that in the movie, in Del Toro's movie. And that was like my biggest gripe. Like, and then it's not even to include Victor has a best friend named Henry that he's super close to. They go on like hikes and boat rides on the lake and just enjoying beauty together. Like, they go explore villages and towns in the countryside and talk philosophy and life. Yeah, his best friend gets killed by the creature too. But they didn't include him at all in Del Toro's movie. In the novel, Victor is away from his family for 6 years, doing his studies, chasing his ambitions, and trying to figure out how to bring life
to a dead body, how to create life. And after the creation, when he runs away, he runs back to his family, to his best friend, and he realizes what he has left behind, and he feels bad, and he realizes that he's missed out on precious years with his loved ones. But in this Del Toro adaptation, we don't get that. We don't get him feeling like he left something behind and he's losing something, especially whenever William and Elizabeth are there with him constantly, and it feels like he can see them anytime he wishes. This is just another instance in the Del Toro adaptation that takes away the human aspect of the story that myself and tons of other people love about the novel. The most important one that they didn't include at all, which shocked me, like they literally just say it in the movie, is the creation of a companion for the creature. In the book, he's like, I cannot be accepted in this world. I don't look like everyone else. Everybody is repulsed at me. I don't fit in. Do this for me. Create another creature who is like me that I can live with, that I can love, who will accept me for who I am because we're alike. And Victor immediately is like, no, I can't bring another demon into this world. I can't make that mistake again. And then eventually the creature convinces him, and this is in the book. And so Victor agrees, and he's like, if you two promise to move far away, I think he says like Africa, if you move far away in isolation and don't cause any grief or any trouble or like, then I'll do it. And he goes through the whole process of creating another, like a woman, because it's like Adam and Eve. You know, the creature comes across that story in the Bible, and is like, that's why he's like, I need a companion. And so Victor goes through the whole process of creating this woman for the creature, and he goes so far to having it all ready to go where he just has to like put the life into it, you know, like the electricity. But then at that last moment, he has that realization that he cannot go through with this, and he destroys the body. And this whole time, the creature has been like far off, watching and waiting. And Victor takes his sweet, precious time. Like he's hanging out with Henry. He's like fishing, you know, like reading, sitting by the fireplace, like taking his sweet time. So the creature's like living in the woods, cold, eating freaking berries and crap, lonely. Like it's so sad. He's like, and watching and waiting, and it's months. It might be a year, but it's like months at least. And he sees, you know, Victor destroy the body and freaks out. And then that's whenever the chase happens, you know, at the end, like all the way to the Arctic. And I think that is so crucial because in the movie, they totally skip over that. If you blink, you'll miss it. Or if you get up to go grab a freaking Coca-Cola from the fridge, you'll miss it. He says, I think the creature says like, make a companion for me. And Victor's like, what? What'd you just say? Wait. Did I hear you right? Nah. And then the creature's like, okay, fine, then I'm really angry now and I'm gonna chase you and hurt you. It's all in dialogue, which is so sad and frustrating. I would have to say that's my biggest critique. This movie is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, like this is like, I'm really, really happy with this movie. And I think that's what makes it so frustrating is that it would have been the best, the all-time best Frankenstein movie, or at least faithful adaptation, if they wouldn't have changed the freaking crap. They wouldn't have screwed around with the story. I don't know why they decided to change these characters like that. It would have been perfect. It would have been really hard for me to watch any other Frankenstein movie if they would have stayed true to that. But regardless, it's a great movie. I mean, it seems like all the audience people are enjoying it and loving it. I've heard from friends that they really loved it, and it's probably gonna be nominated for some Oscars, like especially in makeup and production and costume and all that. So I wish you all the best for that. I think it deserves it. And I'm definitely gonna be watching it again. But I highly, highly recommend that you check out the book yourself if you haven't. And even if you have read it like in high school for class and stuff, I definitely recommend rereading it and jumping into it again. And even listening to the audiobook. I had a long drive to LA and back, so that's why I got the audiobook. And honestly, it was really great. Those are my biggest gripes with the adaptation, and that's the beef that I have. Everybody has their own opinion. That's just what I think and what I feel. And that's what's kind of cool about adaptations. They can make it their own thing, like make it separate from the book. Good for you. Like, that's cool. Be creative and put your own personal style and touch to it. But like, dude, we just haven't got a super
faithful adaptation, and I'm just dying for that. That's my take on Del Toro's 2025 Frankenstein movie and it compared to the book. Thanks for watching. Check out my films on at Beyond Star Films on YouTube. You can see our films on streaming services like Amazon, Tubi, and other random places, and see our short films on YouTube. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you in the next one. Let's see if I can find like a quote here. Remember that I am thy creature. I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel whom thou drivest from joy for no misdeed. Everywhere I see bliss, from which I alone am irrevocably. I can't even, bro. Frankenstein's creature can say these words, but I can't. Bro's known English for like 1 year. Give me a break, bro.